Are we live? We're live. Mike Gannon, we are live, my friend.
How's it going? Good to be here.
Dude, it's doing great. So you are in Nashville, Tennessee?
I am. Yeah.
And dude, I've always been wanting to do a video on slide guitar here for a while. I'm a very poor slide guitar player. I even I even just spent the past 20 minutes trying to find a slide in here, and I couldn't even find one.
You got to have a few around.
Yeah, I know. It's really embarrassing, but I started following your playing, and man, just slide has always been kind of like the top of the mountain for me. The people who can get most like a voice. It's just something I've kind of shied away from because I'm just not very good at it, but haven't spent the time. But man, players like yourselves are like the ones that I really, really, you guys are the ones I really, really look up to, because I think anytime you can kind of sound the most like a voice is when we really connect. And like, man, you got a touch. You really do. I'm really enjoying your stuff, dude.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's really what grabbed me about it, was just the vocal sound of slide players, and just the ability to emulate the voice and sort of communicate in the same way, but through the guitar. That's really what caught my ear about it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, have you been playing slide forever? Like, is this a recent thing?
No, I've been at it for a while now. I'd say probably about 15 years now. So yeah,
Dude.
it's a whole lifestyle. It's it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
Dude, I am sure. Well, hey, let me ask you this. So, like in Nashville, what's the slide scene like?
Honestly, I'm I'm not entirely sure. To be honest, I'm not like a very guitar focused musician. Most of the people I listen to are either singers or keyboard players, or and that's kind of what inspires me and the people I like to play with. So I'm not super aware of what else is going on around town guitar wise. I see some guys who play slide here and there, but
Yeah.
it's not my focus really as a musician in Nashville. I'm not like sort of going around looking at all the other guitar
No,
players.
no, no. And I didn't mean it like that. And I love that answer. That's the perfect answer. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, happy Tuesday. We're changing it up here a little bit. Usually we do Tuesday nights, but Mike and I have been trying to find a time to get on here together. So, welcome everybody that's tuning in here. We got Vince, good to see you. Dizzy Dad, TL, Mr. Tonic, good to see you. Huff, Hunter, got a bunch of people in here. Hunter West, Mike, yeah. Anyway, so Mike Gannon is here. He's a slide player. I have all his links in the description. Make sure you give him a follow. And just like everybody, I kind of asked him to bring some tracks so we can kind of get to know who you are as a player, as a musician, through some of the stuff you listen to. So what'd you bring first? Where do you want to start, dude?
Why don't we start with the Aretha video, because that's really, I would say, a summary and a synthesis of what I try to do and be as a musician.
All right, tell me about that.
Yeah, it's just sort of, this video is an encapsulation of just a musician communicating really directly and really potently with the audience, and what she's channeling through her voice that's really, to me, the pinnacle of what a musician can do through any instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And so just getting immersed in the spirit of that just helps focus what I'm trying to do on the guitar.
I love that, dude. All right, so just let it play for a little bit.
Yep.
You let me know when.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to stop it there for a second.
Yeah, dude.
So I mean, it's just amazing. It's the kind of thing that gives me goosebumps. I've listened to that hundreds of times,
Yeah.
but it gives you goosebumps every time when you feel someone performing like that. And so there's a number of things about that to me that are impactful and that I'm sort of pulling stuff from. And one is just the spirit of it. Like you see her standing there and just delivering a performance like that. That's kind of the energy that's what I'm shooting for. Just trying to channel that kind of thing.
Completely.
Just on a basic, like philosophical level as a musician. That's what I want.
Yeah, that's why we do this.
And then on a technical level, keying into what she's doing with her voice, and as a slide player, being able to get at a lot of those sort of microtones and the way she's sliding into notes and her vibrato. That stuff is really interesting to key in on as a slide player, because you can kind of get at a lot of those sounds. And so I've spent a huge amount of time listening to her just because of her vocal facility and the potency that she has with channeling emotion through the way she uses her voice.
All right. Well, let me ask you this, like on a nuts and bolts level. So you talk about, like, you're talking about actually spending time, like a lot of time, learning her vocal runs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Up and down, like one string or a set of two strings, I guess. Like, because and trying to get all the little inflections, like in its minute detail.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not just the melody. That's when you really key into this stuff, it's not just the notes she's singing. Sometimes it's where her vibrato comes in, or it's the dynamics of her voice throughout a melody. It's all those little things that result in the emotionality of the performance she's giving. So, it's like that might be the melody, but like keying into where she hits the vibrato, maybe she comes into the note. Like it's those little details of it's different if I slide like that versus.
Yeah.
And you can sort of feel the emotional difference in that. So yeah, when I'm keying in on her, it's not just like, oh, I'm trying to pick out that melody. It's really like, how is she using vibrato here? And how's that making me feel, and then assimilating that vocabulary into my own palette as a musician. That's kind of.
Do you sing as well?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, how hard is it, or I should say, how intuitive is it? Because like I'm one of those people that I try to learn every vocal melody to every song that I learn, not just the guitar part, right? Mm-hmm. But clearly with the fretted instrument, you don't get all that nuance. And so how intuitive is it for you to actually get those? Is it all sound, or like do you over time do you feel like you really kind of feel like a voice on the neck too? Like I'm just curious, like how intuitive is it for you, and has it been a lot of work? Like,
yeah, at this point I would say it's intuitive, and the way I think about, like, I don't really, when I'm playing the guitar, I'm not really thinking like a guitar player per se. I'm really, I'm envisioning myself like Aretha is right there. When I'm on stage, that's who I'm trying to be. And so when I'm sort of feeling the guitar neck or looking at the neck, I'm seeing those melodies, thinking as a singer, really.
Yeah.
And I've spent so long just sort of doing it that way that I think it's just intuitive at this point. But I think all my favorite players of any instrument, really, what's characteristic about them is they have a real voice through their instrument.
Sure.
You can hear, whether it's Tommy Emmanuel, the way he plays guitar, or Victor Wooten, or, they have such distinctive voices, and they're really singing through their instrument, not necessarily in a way that always sounds exactly like a singer, but they're channeling that mode of communication through their instrument. And that's the headspace I try and live in when I'm playing.
It's not always the easiest place to get to.
No, it's not. And there's a lot of distractions that can take you out of it as well. But in the best moments, that's kind of, I think, what you're channeling.
Well, and so like that's also not always your role. Like, I mean, you might be, you might have a slide, but you're gonna have to comp rhythm parts too.
Yeah.
Sure. and you got to do everything else that the job entails, and so, being a part of that rhythm section where you're in this nucleus, and then in a split second trying to get to that weightless, place where you're talking about, and come from that from that pure channel and just be one note at a time. That's like, I mean, that's got to happen fast, you know, and it's very different.
It is. I think throughout the course of a single song, you can play a lot of different roles as a guitar player and as a slide player. And I think it's just spending time doing it. And also when you're playing with musicians that you're comfortable playing with,
sure,
just sort of figure out where your lane is. And that's where there becomes a real fluidity of, you're not really thinking about, oh, now I'm playing rhythm, now I'm playing lead, now I'm throwing in a melody line. It's just, you just sort of know where you fit into the music, and you just occupy that space.
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
Should we keep playing it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I think there was another point in this video, maybe 4 minutes in or so.
Yeah, you hit me with 4:05. Let's go up here.
And so part of what I'm keying in on here too is the dynamics of the performance. So like what we just listened to, that's sort of where she's easing into it. She's setting the stage and sort of introducing a lot of these melodic motifs. And now we're a little farther into the song if you play it here.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Dude.
Man,
man, I gotta tell you, I've never seen that before. Everything about that video is great.
I mean, every musician needs to start there, in my opinion. It's just like everything about that is just a lesson, and I think that section, when she hits that, and like the whole congregation just stands up because they can't contain it, you know, like that's right there. That's sort of an encapsulation of why I wanted to become a musician, because you see music hit people that way, and it's just the potency of that. It's just immense.
Yeah, it can't not hit them. They can't even control themselves.
Yeah. So when you see that, and then you start like, how did she do that? You know, and part of it is understanding the buildup. That's 4 minutes into the song. So how did she build to that moment? But then it's like, what is she actually doing with her voice that's causing that reaction? And yeah, it's just a fountain of musical potency, and there's so much to be learned from every aspect of that.
No, man, that's the real stuff, man. I love seeing everybody in the audience. I love how like the whole room is alive, and everybody like you're right. It's about the intent, you know, like you said, getting in that headspace when you approach playing. You know, totally. It's a heavy space to get into, though.
It is, but I mean, for me, the music that I've connected with the most, it's very diverse and eclectic from all over the world, all different times. But that's sort of the common thread that runs through all of it. The music that I really love is the intent behind it, and just how these people approach what they were doing and why they were doing it. You know, like she's not doing that for fame or for money, or there's just like this pure channeling of musical passion. And when you see someone doing that, whether they're playing an instrument or singing, and whether it's even if it's in a language you don't understand, you can always feel that thing.
Totally.
And those are always my favorites.
Dude, I'm excited for your other tracks, man. I don't know what else you brought, but that was a hell of a way to start. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Tuesday. Again, we're doing a special afternoon stream. This is my friend Mike Gannon. All his links are in the description below. Tom, good to see you here. Jay thinks you look like Geddy Lee. Fishing, what's happening? John. All right, or Josh. Sorry, Josh. Derek, good to see you all. All right, so which one do you want to do next and why?
Why don't we check out the Aubrey Gent one?
All right, you didn't give me the titles. You gave me the...
Is this the second one?
All right, so you're just going to go in order?
Yeah.
I like it.
Cool.
All right, so while I cue this up, tell us who we're looking at.
So this is Aubrey Gent, and he's one of the masters of the sacred steels tradition, which is just guys who play lap steel guitar in the sort of style of a gospel singer. And so just having seen Aretha, this approach to the guitar was like a light bulb moment for me of like, oh, you can actually do what Aretha is doing there, but through a guitar.
Yeah.
And he kind of epitomizes that transposition of what she's doing with her voice onto a guitar.
Right on. Mr. Tonic wants to know, do you play lap and pedal as well?
I don't. I try to emulate a lot of those sounds sometimes, but that's a whole other technique. And yeah,
with the foot pedals and everything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. I'm excited to see this. I have not seen this either. This is amazing.
Yeah, this guy's amazing. He's really incredible.
Aubrey Gent.
Yeah.
Dude. So hey, is this AJ's dad?
It is, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Someone just dropped that into the comments. I don't know where the hell it went, but
AJ's he's kind of the new generation, but Aubrey's been he was the one that I found first, and I started listening to his records a long time ago. But he's just a master of this tradition, and AJ's carrying that on now as well. But I think when I first heard him, that it was like it's the same spirit as that Aretha thing. It's coming from the same place, and of course, technically, it sounds very similar. And you know, like a lot of the way he's sliding into notes and a lot of the vibrato. And it's just cool to hear that and say, oh, that thing that Aretha's doing, it's actually possible to do that on guitar as well. And that was just inspiring to see that for me, because it's like, oh, then why don't I try and start figuring that out as well?
Yeah, and I love how he had a couple of those, staccato isn't the right word, but more staccato parts, you know? He has a very, very cool style. I don't believe I've ever heard him play or seen any videos of him ever before. You're 2 for 2, man. This is great.
Yeah, he's an unsung hero. He's just such a master at that style. And again, it's what makes him like a really amazing player is the nuance. And if you watch him like rocking his volume knob on the guitar, he's using that to hide the attack in the way he's sliding into a lot of the notes with the where you don't really hear the sound of the pick, you know, it's just that. So like, and I'm using a volume pedal, but he does it with.
Oh, you are using a volume pedal.
Yeah, that's kind of I'm constantly riding a volume pedal.
No, did you used to always ride the knob and the pedal kind of evolved later?
No, I never really did the knob thing. My knobs stay on 10. My volume knobs stay on 10 always, and because I just figured why, if I can free up both hands, why
Sure,
not?
sure.
And using the pedal allows just a constant fluctuation of it. And the way I run my amp as well is I use a old tube amp that's just always cranked. So the tone of it is totally dictated by the volume of the guitar I'm feeding into it. So if it's low, it's kind of like a clean melodic sound. And then if I want to get aggressive, all I have to do is just dig into the volume pedal more. So it's like if the amp is sitting right on edge, your tone is really controlled by where the volume's living at. So using a pedal gives you the ultimate control over that.
I know people are about to ask. Can you talk about your rig real quick? Because there's no way you're going to talk about it and have people not ask a million questions. So what amp are you playing through generally?
It's a vintage Super Reverb, 67 Super Reverb. Yeah. And honestly, that's it. It's my guitar into a volume pedal into the amp, and that's it.
I love you. That's awesome.
So it's like, but it really, like, the reason that works for me is what I just mentioned, where it's like it can go from totally clean when the volume pedal's down to grungy sound when it's like, so you have that whole spectrum in one piece of gear.
Yeah.
And then it's really just finding the nuances of the spectrum in between 0 and 10.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And it makes complete sense for your style of play and what you've talked about this entire thing. You're just removing the crap in between you and the sound, man. Just trying to be that voice. Like what else do you need?
Yeah, and that's something that comes from sort of the singing approach to guitar as well, and that's something I guess I've learned just being a singer as well, is the difference between singing sort of in a soft melodic space in your voice versus really digging into it where it starts to have some grit and some edge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing you can try and bring into your guitar voice when it's like when I'm riding the volume pedal and sort of crank it up. That's when the amp starts to break up. It's the same way I feel when my voice starts to break up when I'm sort of going for a higher note or a more aggressive phrasing of something. So there's a lot of correlation between the two.
I dig it, brother. I dig it. Oh, man. All right. Should we do the third one? Let's keep it rolling. All right. So what is the third one here while I pull it up? Tell everybody what it is.
I can't recall. Is it Anushka? Is this the Anushka Shankar video?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes. So talk about this for a second before we start.
Yeah. So this is an illustration of the principle I was talking a little about earlier, where to me it's like the genre or style of music doesn't really matter that much. The common thread that runs through it is sort of the intensity and the approach of what the musician is bringing to the instrument and how they're trying to communicate through their instrument.
Yeah.
And getting to the slide stuff led me into a lot of different types of music, but Indian classical is definitely one. And for a slide player, that's a great world of music to key in on because it's so focused on microtones and inflections, and they're always kind of bouncing off a drone and playing with the tension between just the intonation of where the melodic note is sitting versus the drone. And even the fretted instruments in Indian classical music, like Anushka Shankar plays a sitar, which is technically a fretted instrument, but there's so much bend latitude on it that she can cover like a range of almost an octave, just on a single fret with bending. So it sounds a lot more like a fretless instrument. There's also an instrument called sarod in Indian classical music, which is a fretless instrument. But just that style of music is so focused on the microtonality and the subtle inflections that it's a great place to draw stuff from as a slide player.
Yeah, I mean, that's a world I know so little about. All right, let's just hit the button.
Yeah.
does it get that huge sound?
Yeah, it's an amazing percussion instrument.
Okay, I see what you're talking about. Where do you begin starting to incorporate some of that stuff?
I think it's not really a conscious thing. It's just if there's a type of music that you really love and you spend a lot of time immersed in, it just sort of starts to come out in your vocabulary.
That's a great
your
answer.
Tonality and your sensibility. So I didn't necessarily sit down and like try and grab a bunch of that stuff, but when you listen to it enough and you read about where that music comes from and the approach behind it and the intention with it, it starts to become part of your musical identity. And the more you listen to it, those inflections do start to come out.
I guess what I mean is there like a certain like interval jump or something that like really stands out to you that you feel like you hit all the time? Like there was one, it sounded like in the beginning where it was like 1, 2, 3, and then like she grabbed like the 3, and then like it was like pushing into the world of the flat 5, but then back, like almost like a whole step that didn't quite make it in there, and then back down. Like there's like, are there a couple sweet spots that you find yourself using all the time?
Definitely, and some of those are idiomatic to those instruments. Like there's some sounds that you can get with a sitar bend like that a Western guitar player would never do.
Sure,
it's not really. But yeah, I mean, there's stuff like. That's stuff you're not going to hear a whole lot in Western music. And she's playing around with the 4 a lot, the sort of, stuff like that. And then, but then the,
yeah,
so, but a lot of times it's not necessarily the melodies are different. It's sort of the nuances of how they slide into notes. And one interesting thing about Indian classical music is there's really not vibrato. Like most types of music around the world, there's a lot of vibrato of different types, but in Indian classical music, there's really not. There's a lot of fast. Yeah, there's a lot of fast melodic motion, but you'll never see her. You're not really going to find that, which is really interesting. But a lot of that's like something that your ear will start to hear as a stylistic difference. Like if you might hear the same melody, it might be that's like the gospel version of it, and the Indian classical version might be
interesting.
Very similar melodic idea, but it's those little nuances and details that let it live in one stylistic world or the other. And I think just listening to a lot of music, you start to assimilate that vocabulary, and it just sort of comes out.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, what do we have here? Moldy Ice Cream says, I guess in some interview, Truck said that sharp 4 and a flat 7 give you that thing, especially sharp 4 up and then flat 7 down.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if he said that somewhere. I don't know.
That's something that she just did, both those things in that clip. So she was in that intro. She was playing around with that sharp 4, but then so both those. But I mean, Indian classical music has all different tonalities, just like Western music does.
Sure,
so it's not like every song has sharp 4 and flat 7, but those are certain sounds that you hear come out a lot in certain ragas. But I think there's a lot of those stylistic nuances that place it in that world. But when you get into the essence of the music, it's really like you can see the intensity when she's playing. Like you see the intensity of what she's doing, and in a lot of ways, it's reflective of what Aretha was doing. It's a different setting, slightly different stylistic embellishments, but I see it as there's really a common thread to it.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that reminds me of something. I'd love to hear your take on this. So one thing that always kind of, that I think about in terms of slide versus playing a fretted instrument or a voice or a horn, etc., is there's a much different mindset than, say, playing over or through the changes. Mm-hmm. it's very key centered, if you will. And so like that whole thing that was, there was a constant drone or pedal tone
Yep.
throughout the whole thing.
Yep.
And then even though, you might be singing or you might be playing through a 1-4-5 or all these crazy things, there's a commitment, right? There's a commitment to kind of keeping that key-centered vibe like a vocalist would instead of playing through changes. Can you talk about that for a sec?
Yeah.
Or do you not view it that way at all?
No, I think that's definitely right. And my favorite way to play is that kind of bouncing off a drone or bouncing off a simple progression. And I mean, I love guys who can do the, jazz stuff too and just play over crazy changes. That's really cool too. It's just a different style. And I think when you're playing through more of a vocal style and focused more on like melody in that sense, and that's the cool thing about indie classical music is it is like there'll be these pieces that are 50 minutes long, and it's a drone on D the entire time.
Yeah.
And so the melodic intrigue comes on the interaction between the melodic instrument and the drone. And when you really start to feel the tension, like there's so much in there, you don't need a crazy amount of notes and a crazy amount of rhythms to really express a lot. It's like,
yeah,
like there's so much in there. So you have that low drone. That in itself is just the way the melody is interacting with the drone. It's over. There's a huge weight to that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, yeah, I love all different kinds of stuff, but that approach is definitely has a lot of relevance with slide playing for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the key takeaway. Like what I'm saying is like that for whatever reason, the voice, always, like regardless of all these different genres that I like and listen to, you're not really hearing voices wander around through the changes like you would an instrument would. It's kind of like I don't know, like your home base, like it's your singular thing that you always pull back to wherever the focus is. But it's so easy as a player of an instrument to get to have all these different things you can consider, and so it's just a fascinating thought process, to really just be committed to that vocal sensibility, and it really keeps you in a key-centered approach instead of just hunting for chord tone all over the place.
Definitely, I think with microtonal instruments, you have infinitely more tone colors. Like when you're playing fretted instruments, and take bending out of the equation for a second, you basically have the 12 notes in Western music, and so those intervals are sometimes you need to use more of those notes to get something across because you only have 12 ways that they can hit against a tonic.
That's
versus when you have this infinite amount of different inflections and microtonality to play with, there's just sort of a lot more room for variation in color in a simpler sense where, just exploring microtones over a single drone note, there's just a huge amount of color in there that you might not have, say, with a piano, where it's like, if I'm droning on C with a piano, I kind of have, 12 other options of like what it's going to sound like on top of that.
But that's what you have. Yeah.
But that's how it is. And so I think that just breeds a lot more complexity and harmony and chord voicings and everything, because that's the expressiveness of that instrument. But when you have access to all these microtones and these different tone colors in the minutia of how exactly you're hitting a note, you don't always need as much harmonic motion.
I get it. Love it, man. Do you stick with one tuning or do you change it up?
I do. On electric, I play in open E all the time. Mm-hmm. Even when I'm not playing slide, open E. And then my acoustics, I keep in C sharp, which is the same intervals, but just down a step and a half.
Yeah. Now, why do you do that? Why do you do C sharp?
It's partly just I really like the tone of the guitar down there. And tuning up to E does add some tension to the neck. And so on some, I think early on, like acoustics felt like the neck was getting too tense if I tried to bring him up to E.
Yeah.
So I started going down to D, and then eventually landed on C sharp, which is a nice place for acoustic guitars to sit. And as a singer, I like singing in that key as well. So
I'm gonna have to try that. That's really intriguing.
Yeah, it's a great sound. It's really cool.
All right, man. Let's do the next one. This is fun. I appreciate this, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so video 4 is the
It's Mahalia, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
All right, tell us what you're teeing up.
So this is, I think, an illustration of it. I mean, it sort of harkens back to the Aretha thing in the first video, but it's illustrates the principle of like, where did that music come from? So like Aretha didn't just pop out of nowhere. And Aretha is an evolution of what came before her. And Mahalia Jackson was one of the early gospel singers of that style that came to prominence. And when you listen to her, you can hear the stuff that Aretha's doing, but it's sort of like in an earlier form. And then there's also slight differences in the way they approach vibrato, and just those nuances are kind of interesting to key in on. So,
dude, I'm excited to see it, man.
Yeah.
All right.
But through the storm,
Yeah, man.
My way.
I really dig that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, I mean, when you're watching her, to me, I see the same thing in some ways that I see when I'm looking at Anushka playing like that, or Aubrey or Aretha. You see that same just intensity where
I get it.
They're just in the zone, and all they're focused on is evoking the maximum possible emotional response from their audience, and they're just totally zoned in on that. And regardless of whether they're playing an instrument, singing, what style of music, that's the first thing that jumps out at me. And then when you listen to her, what she's doing, you hear a lot of that Aretha stuff, but it's a little bit slower, and she's there's a little bit more weight in each note. Her voice has a little bit of a lower timbre to it. And so it's just interesting to see the evolution of that style of music coming from there to then where Aretha took it, and then where a lot of other people have taken it since then. I always find it interesting to go back to kind of the source. And
yeah,
Mahalia, it's not like she was the first one either, but it's just always interesting to keep going back generations and sort of see what threads get carried through as that music evolves.
Dude, I'm enjoying this so much. I'm learning a great deal. This is awesome. Yeah, that I mean, I love that music so much. I haven't dug super deep into it, but like what you're saying and what you're showing is really all connecting. The intent with which everybody's singing and playing is just absolutely at the forefront, and that's I mean that's the real stuff right there. I dig it. I really do.
It's the first thing you feel. I think it's like you can just feel it, and it doesn't matter if what the style is or what the person looks like or anything. It's just you can't deny when that feeling hits you, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do here in Nashville with the pitch meeting as well. Is
yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, so we basically try to just, it's like I said, it's a songwriter collective and an artist development organization, and we just try to find musicians who approach music with that sort of passion and that sort of spirit. And I mean, there's so many amazing musicians and songwriters here, and I think a lot of the ones that gravitate to what we're doing are the ones that are kind of doing it with that intention and that reason, where it's a passion for the music and really a dedication to the craft of whatever they do, whether it's songwriting or whether they're instrumentalists. And that same spirit comes through, when someone's playing or singing, or you hear it in their writing, when that's the reasons they're doing it, because they saw someone else do it that way, and it hit them so hard that they're like, I just need to figure out how to do that, And so a lot of times it is people that are a little more off the beaten path. It's not necessarily the people who are writing for radio or on the big country gigs that come out of Nashville, but people with amazing talent and amazing musical voices, either as singers or songwriters or instrumentalists. And so we just try to identify that same common thread in people and give them opportunities and showcase them, and we record them here in the studio and we shoot videos. So
how does it work? How do people get involved? Like, what is it like? What is the whole process like?
Yeah, so we have showcase / open mic nights every Tuesday, where we do a house band set of music from people in the band, and then we feature an artist who's usually just someone that we really believe in their music and think they're great. And then we kind of open it up after that. And so there is a sign up list, and songwriter, anyone can just come and sign up. And we don't usually have a chance to get to everyone, but it's totally random and just on the spot, and it's all original music. It has to be original music. So they bring their song, and either they'll just tell us some chords on the spot, or sometimes they have charts, or sometimes we just sort of fall into it and see what happens. And it's just this environment of people really trying to listen to each other and trying to add their own voice to the conversation musically. And there's been so many amazing moments of just people coming out of nowhere. And you're like, whoa, that was incredible. And the song, just these musical moments take shape on stage. And I mean, the house band is all amazing musicians.
I'm sure.
We've played together for a long time, so everyone's really listening and keyed in on what's going on. And so it's really just about trying to hear what the songwriter is bringing to the stage, and trying to figure out how to lift that up. And
now, is the house band, like, are you guys all working together already anyway on your own thing? Like, is this like, how did this all come about?
Yeah, we all do a lot together. My buddy Eric Fortaleza and I started it about 2 years ago now, and it really just started as a way towards the end of the pandemic to just start playing music again. And it grew into this thing where we just started talking, and it was a lot of these sort of more philosophical conversations about, like, why do you do music? How do you approach it? And we found a lot of commonality between the two of us. And then we just sort of, that created a gravity that attracted other people who were kind of like-minded in that way. And so it just developed this scene of people who were, doing something that's a little more off the beaten path in Nashville, but it's a thriving community. And so since then, we've done a ton together. We support a lot of these songwriters that come through our showcase events, and we end up playing shows for them, and we end up recording their music and shooting videos. And so we have, and so at this point, we've built a great musical rapport between the core band, which is me and Eric and a handful of other amazing musicians. So it's been really cool to be able to do that, and then just create a space for new emerging songwriting talent to come and see what their song sounds like in the context of a full band, and that sort of improvisational setting where we're just all searching for those really great musical moments.
Hell yeah, dude. What's it called again?
It's called the Pitch Meeting.
And where do you do it?
It's a place called Sonny's in Germantown. And we're there every Tuesday night, and it's always, we never know what we're going to get, and it's always a little bit different. And
well, next time I come to Nashville, I'm going to come down.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'd love to have you come and hang out and sit in and play with us.
Dude, I would love to, man. I get down once or twice a year, and I would love to see that. That's a very cool thing you're doing. Yeah. That's awesome.
But again, it's like, the way it ties back to all these videos we're talking about today is it comes from that same place of like, why were these people doing music and how were they approaching it? And that's the kind of community that we're trying to build here, is the people that are doing it with that sort of intensity and that sort of dedication to the craft.
Man, that is cooler than shit. That gives me so much hope. I love it. No, seriously, man. I love that that's what you're doing. I love that these are the types of things that you're passionate about, and these are the tracks you brought. I love your simple approach to the gear, about just so committed to the vocal sensibilities, and just have it be emotion first and everything else secondary. Like I dig the whole vibe, man.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. On that note, hit me with your last track here.
This was Derek, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's impossible to have a conversation about slide guitar without bringing up Derek Trucks.
I know. I'm excited to get to see him on Monday, man.
Oh, are you? Very cool.
Yeah, I'm going to the Beacon.
Yeah, I saw them there a while ago now, but yeah, it's cool place to see him. But I mean, for me, Derek was really the gateway into all of this stuff for me. He really opened the door to so many worlds of music for me. And as a slide player, there's obviously so much to learn from him, but really as a musician, the most important things I've learned from him are more his approach. And he really turned me on to thinking about music this way, and digging into the intention of what's behind it. And when you listen to someone you love, it's not necessarily about finding the melodies they're playing, but it's understanding where they're coming from and what influenced them, and the musical traditions that gave rise to what they're doing, and just the feeling that they're evoking as a performer, whatever instrument they're playing. And just finding him early on in my playing really helped shape my mindset in that way. And he's a master in so many ways, but I think the key things to take from him are his approach, and just sort of the reverence that he has for all that side of things.
Yeah, he's always struck me as an incredibly thoughtful musician. Like I just remember always when he was young and he was coming up, like the reverence he would have for the music, and how much respect he showed to everybody else on stage, always, right? But then when it was his time to shine and to lead, he honored it with that same intensity, and really set to going about searing around town, and didn't try to hold back, but waited for his time and then took it. And he's always been somebody that I've always felt that just completely got it, and that does it for the love of it. And totally. I think we all feel that way about Derek. I mean, we're blessed to have him and be able to look up to him and share this, same spot and time.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. All right, here we go. This is Rastaman Chant, 2004. Dude, I haven't seen this video either that I know of. You are on it, sir. All right. I love that you picked a reggae tune. All right, that was so cool. I have not seen or even heard that version before.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Tonic has. Yeah, dude, what a perfect way to wrap up all those 4 preceding videos. I can hear those Indian influences. I can hear all those little things, but mostly it's just like so I'm talking to you and I just keep thinking about the word like intent over and over again and why you're doing something and from where it comes. And like in that in particular, like you hear every little coil on his string. You know what I mean? It's like every little clear thing. Like there's like it's like I was watching that, like trying to think about it, like in that in a fresh mindset. Like you can hear every little tiny little flick of the wrist, like every jitter, and it's just free form. I don't know. There's just the channel is just wide open. There's nothing in between blocking it. It's such a I don't have the word for it, but you know, shit.
Yeah, totally. Which I think completely follows in the tradition of, you know, the other things that we watched before, which is why I thought that would be a good one to kind of encapsulate all the others. And he's channeling a lot of those same influences as well, and you can feel that intensity in what he's doing, like you're saying, just that open, clear channel for expression. And you do hear all those different influences sort of blending seamlessly, and that's the kind of, I think, what comes with immersion in these different types of music is you just assimilate these different vocabularies and they come out in your own expression as well. And I think another thing that is so amazing about him is just the way he builds solos.
Totally.
Sort of the narrative arc. I mean, a lot of people say things like, "Oh, you have to tell a story with your solo." You know, a lot of people say that, and it's easy to say that, but like, break that down. And what does a great storyteller actually do? You know, and there's a narrative arc to it. There's a distinctive voice to it. There's a certain phrasing to it, and there's space. There's dynamics to it.
Punctuation. All
Right. And so to me, those are the elements that really make a great storyteller. And so if you want to apply that concept to being a musician or soloist of any sort, you have to actually think about applying those concepts to how you're building these solos. And he just epitomizes that, you know, and that was a great example of it, where he starts with a melodic motif. He iterates on it for a little while, and it starts in a low dynamic place where his tone is kind of evoking that a sort of calmer entryway into what he's doing. And then it starts to build, it gets busier, the tone gets more aggressive. And it has such a narrative arc to it. And I think that's why, you know, people react the way they do to his playing. And it's similar to like that first Aretha video where, you know, early on in the video, she's kind of easing into it and introducing a lot of those melodic ideas, and the tone of her voice is a little bit subtler.
Yeah.
And then by 4 minutes in, she's digging in, and the entire room is on their feet. And it's that same kind of build in intensity. And with the Indian classical pieces, it's the same thing. A lot of those will start for 20 minutes with just a drone before the tabla even comes in, before there's any percussion. They'll just be droning for 20 minutes, just a melodic instrument over a drone, and just easing into it, setting the landscape, you know, introducing that tonality into the listener's ear and hitting on a lot of those emotions. And then it builds and builds, and the tabla comes in, and you get these incredibly intense sections with crazy rhythms and melodic interplay. And there's such an arc to it. And Derek is just a great encapsulation of all those principles. And that's what makes his playing so, you know, so potent.
I couldn't put it any better, man. Well, dude, Mike, this has been great. I really appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
This is so cool. Before I let you go, I do want to mention you also sent a couple shorts talking about how you practice and how you learn. Now, the links to all Mike's stuff is in the description, but I want to share one of these and let you kind of plug yourself and kind of talk about what people can expect to find over on your channels, etc.?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask me like, who my influences are. And they expect answers that are guitar players, but go ahead and play that one.
Sure. Oh, wait. Volume's way low. All right, hold on a second. I've never played a short on here before, so look, I got to turn the volume up from the previous one, and then I'll go up. Yeah, gotcha.
So that's it, really. It's just hundreds and thousands of hours of doing that. Really, that's honestly how I figured out how to do what I do on the guitar. Is just a lot of that with different singers and instrumentalists, and like I said before, it's not just getting the melody. It's like, where is she dynamically coming in strong on some of those notes, and where's the vibrato come in? What's the cadence of the vibrato? It's just taking little phrases like that. And I always find it's oftentimes more valuable rather than learning an entire song or an entire 3-minute solo. Just take like 10 seconds, 5 seconds,
Totally.
and key into the nuance of what's going on, because then you get a deeper understanding of the vocabulary and what's actually producing that musical effect. And if you can really dig into that, then I think you start to have a command over the building blocks of what's ultimately going to enable you to improvise for longer sections. So yeah, that's a great thing, I think, for anyone to do. And whether it's a singer or, an instrumentalist, just find something that really hits you hard musically, take a little segment of it, and dig into the nuance of what's going on. And for slide players, like, listening to people like Aretha or Donny Hathaway or Ray Charles or Mahalia Jackson, it's an amazing just library of information on how to produce that musical effect with vocal sounds. And if you can find that on the guitar, it's really cool.
Man, I absolutely love it. Your passion just comes completely through, man, and it's just all your influences and the why you do thing. I completely identify with. I love it, and I hope that people watching this take it to heart, man. This is just cooler than shit. I really appreciate you spending the time coming to talk music and slide in general, and just the key takeaway for me is just what's the intention you're playing with?
Yeah.
Why do we do this? And try to get into that moment with everything that we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure.
And it's always great to see people on the internet who are doing what you're doing and sort of cultivating an appreciation for musicianship. So it's really cool to see, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And when I make it down to Nashville, I'll give you a buzz.
That'd be great.
If you ever come up to Baltimore, let me know.
Oh, I used to live in Baltimore, actually.
No way. Where?
Yeah.
Well, you made it out. That's nice.
my favorite pizza place in the world actually is in Baltimore.
Where?
Have you ever been to Iggy's? It's on Calvert Street.
No, I've never been to Iggy's on Calvert Street.
Oh, go check it out. It's I've been to Italy, and the best pizza I've ever had is Iggy's in Baltimore.
All right. I'm gonna do that. I'll put my vest on and go down there and do it. No, but seriously, how long did you live in Baltimore?
I was there for 2 years. It was a little while ago now, but
were you?
I hope Iggy's is still.
Were
there,
you working here? Were you in school? Or what were you doing?
Yeah, it was just after school, and I was just sort of working my way. I went to school in Virginia, and then I was in Baltimore, and then New York, and now Nashville.
But were you playing music here? Is what I'm saying.
Never live. I was doing some recording and stuff. But I never really checked out the live scene in Baltimore much. But
yeah, there's some great players.
Really?
Oh, for sure. It's just like the city itself. It kind of like exists to spite itself, and the the players that are here doing it, grinding it out, there's some serious potency in there. Like there's some real characters, some incredible local players that are just dug into this scene that, but you can only find them in this one bar, in this one place, in this one part of town, and that's where you're always going to find them. That's all they're ever going to go. But
a lot of times though, those
they'll
are the
cut
ones
your
you
head
wanna
off,
find.
man.
Yeah.
Dude, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah, totally.
All right, well, Mike, hang on a second. And again, everybody, thanks for watching. Please, Mike's got all his links to all his stuff in the description. Please consider going and giving him a subscribe, a follow, all that stuff, and maybe pick up a slide while you're at it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys real soon. Cheers.
Thanks.